I don't like complaints. Not because they're unfair, though in my case they usually are, but because they stick. Like the smell of bleach that soaks into your skin. They tell you, room 308, no fresh towels. You respond, that wasn't my shift. And they just look at you. Through you. Like you're nothing more than a walking mop. I work as a housekeeper at a hotel near the Sacramento airport. 3 stars. 134 rooms. 1 big banquet hall, a pool, and those breakfast waffles that never come out looking like the picture. My shift runs from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. I cover the second half of the day. The morning shift? That's Sandra. Sandra is a whole story on her own. We almost never see each other. If we do, it's a quick hi without tone, without eye contact. She clocks out at 12:57. I clock in at 12:58. Like we're on a timer. But lately things between us feel less like a schedule, and more like a silent war. Started with the rooms. I'd walk in and know something was off. At first glance, everything seemed fine. Bed made, bathroom gleaming, soap stocked. But then I'd open a cabinet, find a rag someone forgot. Check under the bed, dust bunnies. And then bam! The front desk calls me. Guest in 412 says there was no shampoo in the shower. And guess who was supposed to clean 412? The morning shift. That is Sandra. But who got the complaint? Me. As usual. First I kept quiet. Maybe she was tired. Maybe it was a one-off. But then it happened again. And again. And again. Always after her shift. And yet I'm the one getting flagged. Verbal warning. Bonus cut. One time I almost cried in the supply closet. 15 minutes earlier, a guest yelled at me about an overflowing trash bin. Said I was lazy. But I hadn't even been in that room yet. And how do you explain that to someone convinced all hotel workers are just incompetent and careless? I tried talking to the manager. He listened, nodded, then shrugged. Figure it out between yourselves. I'm not here to babysit. We're a team, not a daycare. Fine. If we're not kids, let's play like grown-ups. I left a note in the room log, the one where we track completed cleanings. Sandra, please double-check the bathrooms and cabinets. We keep getting complaints. The next day I found her reply. Worry about your own shift, not mine. I've been doing this longer than you've been here. That did it. I stopped feeling tired. I just felt angry. Started showing up 15 minutes early, just to check her rooms. Like it was some twisted game I didn't ask to play. And the worst part? No one noticed. No one saw me staying late, scrubbing mystery stains off headboards, or triple-checking minibar inventory. No one said thanks. Then one day the manager looked me straight in the eye and said, "We got another negative review about the cleaning. Maybe you should reconsider your process." And I stood there, my uniform still damp from scrubbing, hands red from the chemicals, thinking, really? I'm the one who needs to reconsider. I got to the point where I wished they'd just fire Sandra, just to make it stop. So I wouldn't have to keep being the scapegoat. So I wouldn't go home feeling like I didn't matter. But then something unexpected happened. One morning I showed up early again. It was gray outside, foggy. I came in through the back entrance, the one that's usually locked, but for some reason was cracked open. And there, in the dim light of the supply room, was Sandra. She was sitting on a plastic stool, hunched over, hands on her knees. Eyes puffy. Hair a mess. Next to her, a crumpled energy drink bottle and a child's backpack. She didn't see me. Just stared at the wall. I was going to back out, close the door, leave quietly. But then she murmured so soft I barely caught it. I didn't make it again. School's calling. The little one's got a fever. And something inside me didn't break. It shifted. I stood in the doorway, barely breathing. The woman I'd blamed for months, grumbled about, resented, was now sitting in front of me, completely unguarded. No defenses. No fire. Just exhausted. Sandra. The one who left towels in the wrong place. The one who forgot trash bins. The one who, in my head, was sabotaging me every single shift. Now she looked like a woman running on fumes. And something in me shifted again. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt unsure. Like maybe I had been wrong. At least about something. She hadn't seen me yet. She was staring into space like the wall was holding her thoughts in place. I didn't want to scare her, but I also couldn't walk away. So I stepped in quietly. "Sandra," I said softly. She flinched, startled, turned around quickly. Her eyes were rimmed in red. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. I raised both hands a little like I come in peace. "Sorry. I didn't mean to eavesdrop," I said. "I saw the door open. That's all." She said nothing. Just wiped her face with her sleeve and nodded. Silence. That heavy, awkward kind that makes you want to disappear. But I sat down on a crate nearby anyway. "I had a rough start today too," I offered, trying to lighten it. "Guest in 509 called me a walking disaster zone." Sandra let out the smallest laugh. Dry, tired, but still a laugh. "At least he was creative," she muttered, rubbing her forehead. That was our first real moment. No sarcasm. No bitterness. Just two tired people sitting in a break room that smelled like pine sol and old mop handles. I took a breath. "Look," I said gently, "I know things have been tense. I've been frustrated. You probably have too. But this isn't about towels, is it?" She stared at me for a second, then finally nodded. "I'm not mad," she said. "I'm just drowning." And then it all came out. "I've got 2 kids," she said quietly. "My youngest has asthma. 4 years old. He wakes up coughing 3-4 times a night. Every night. And my husband? Practically gone. He says he's working late, but I've seen the messages. The numbers on his call log. The perfume that isn't mine. I've been holding it all together with duct tape and prayer." She paused, took a breath. "Most mornings I'm on the bus before sunrise. I haven't had a proper night of sleep in months. And then I come here, put on this uniform, and try to keep it together." She looked down at her hands. "Sometimes I forget a trash bin or a towel. Not because I don't care, but because I can't hold everything in my head anymore." Another pause. "Then and when I get home, my kids ask me where Daddy is. And I tell them he's working. But they know I'm lying. And I hate that more than anything." Her voice cracked. But she didn't cry. Just sat there, shoulders slumped, like she'd finally let go of a weight she didn't realize she was carrying. I didn't know what to say. Hugging her would have been too much. So I just nodded. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "Really?" Sandra gave me a tired half-smile. "What about you?" she asked. "How do you end up in the glamorous world of hotel cleaning?" I shrugged. "Moved here a few months ago. Needed steady work. Cleaning gives me a sense of control, I guess. When the room's clean, something finally makes sense." Sandra nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." We sat there for a bit, letting the silence settle. The first morning shift started arriving. The building began to hum again. Voices. Footsteps. Radios crackling in the distance. Before I left, I turned to her. "Listen, if you want, we can find a way to make the load lighter. You tell me when you're overwhelmed, I'll cover a couple rooms. And maybe you can flag the ones I should double-check." She stared at me, like she wasn't sure I was serious. Then she exhaled, slow and shaky. "I'll think about it," she said. And then softer, "Thanks for not walking away when you saw me." I smiled. "There's a lot of garbage in this place," I said. "But the kind that builds up in your soul? That's the one we've really got to clean up." Sandra let out a small laugh. "You know what? You're not who I thought you were." And in that moment I realized neither of us were. I didn't know what would happen after that conversation. Honestly, I half expected nothing. People don't just change, not overnight. Not when they're tired, burned out, and barely hanging on. But the next day when I showed up for my shift at 12:56, I noticed something strange. The cleaning log, the one we both used to track our rooms, had a note. It was on a torn scrap of notebook paper, written in rush block letters. "Check 306, dust under the bed. 310 has kids, leave extra towels." I couldn't finish everything. "Sorry." I stared at it for a long moment. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even warm. But it was something. It was effort. It was a crack in the wall we both been hiding behind. We didn't become best friends. Let me be clear about that. It was awkward at first. Like two dancers stuck on the same stage, both hearing different music, both afraid to make the first move. No one wanted to step on anyone's toes. But we started. Tiny steps. I stopped treating her rooms like a crime scene. No more sneaky double checks, no more mental accusations. If something was off, I just left a calm note. 208, the bathroom door sticking. Guest in 217 asked for mints on the pillow. If it's you tomorrow, go wild. And Sandra, she responded. Sometimes just a checkmark. Sometimes a little smiley face. Once even, got it. Thanks. We built our own quiet system. Not official. Not even discussed aloud. But it worked. She started leaving me a bottle of water in the closet fridge. It doesn't sound like much, but when you've been hauling sheets and pushing carts for hours, it's gold. And I bought her that yogurt she mentioned offhand one day. Left it in the fridge with her name written in Sharpie. It was a truce. No more than that. It was an alliance. One evening I was clocking out when the front desk manager stopped me in the hallway. He was slightly out of breath, holding a clipboard. Hey, he said, flipping through papers. This is weird, but we haven't had a single cleaning complaint this week. Not one. In fact, we've gotten a couple compliments. What are you two doing up there? Witchcraft. I smiled, tried to keep it light. Wanted to say we started treating each other like humans. But all I said was just streamlining some things. He nodded. Well, whatever it is, keep it up. I walked outside and sat on the bench near the staff entrance. It was one of those spring evenings, warm, but with a cool breeze that made everything feel calmer than it should. The freeway hummed in the background. And right then it hit me. Something inside had shifted. Not just between me and Sandra. Not just at work. Inside me. Like I'd finally cracked open a window in a house I didn't even realize was stuffy. But with peace came fear. Quiet, creeping, stubborn fear. What if it all fell apart again? What if Sandra burned out, missed something huge, and the complaints came back? What if I started to care too much and got burned again? What if this was all just temporary? It was hard to admit, but I was scared. Scared of trusting again. Of being seen. Of hoping. When you spend so long defending yourself, peace feels like a trick. You start to wonder when the floor will fall out again. The next afternoon, I came in early again. Opened the break room fridge and found a container with a sticky note. Enjoy, smiley face inside. Homemade cookies. Vanilla, cinnamon. Soft, still fresh. On the lid, another note. Thanks for being patient. Yesterday was a rough one and I knew you'd have my back. I told the manager you helped. You're amazing. I sat on the little plastic chair in the supply room and ate a cookie. Then another. And I laughed. Out loud. All alone, surrounded by mop buckets and bleach bottles. Not because it was funny, but because it felt real. We still weren't friends in the classic sense. We didn't grab coffee after shifts or text on weekends. But Sandra's hi got a little warmer every day. And I stopped saying bye, like I was clocking out of a battle. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's where healing begins. There's a kind of silence that doesn't comfort you. It unnerves you. Like something's waiting behind it, holding its breath. That day started like any other. I clocked in early like I've been doing lately. Wanted to print out the updated room assignment checklist. We'd started a new routine. Sandra left me notes about anything she couldn't finish and I'd flag the priority rooms for her in return. But that day the page was blank. Not just missing a few details, completely empty. No rooms listed. No smiley faces. No sorry check 312. Just nothing. I frowned. That had never happened. I went up to the floor and opened 308. And instantly I knew something was wrong. The bed wasn't made. Crumbs on the floor. Bathroom mirror streaked. An empty shampoo tube in the shower. And worse, an old cigarette butt on the counter. Smoking in the rooms was a strict violation. I checked the log again. Sandra had checked it off. Initials and all. I felt my stomach drop. That familiar, bitter heat of frustration. Don't go there, I told myself. Breathe. But I couldn't ignore it. It felt like everything we'd built was cracking apart. I went downstairs, hoping to catch her before she left. But she was gone. Not in the locker room. Not in the staff hallway. Nowhere. One last option. I pulled out my phone and called her. 3 rings. Then a tired voice answered. Hello. Sandra? Are you okay? Where are you? She exhaled. Sounded like she'd been crying. I had to leave early. I tried to reach the manager, but no one picked up. They called from the school. My youngest, the asthma kicked in again. He collapsed. They had to call an ambulance. My heart clenched. She kept going, breath shaky. I dropped everything. Ran. I didn't even finish the floor. I'm sorry. And just like that, the anger drained from me. 6 months ago, I would have snapped. Said something about responsibility, about how I couldn't keep covering. But now, I just said, you did the right thing. Forget the rooms. I've got it. Just focus on him. Nothing else matters right now. Later that evening, as I was checking supplies, the manager found me. His face looked tight. Clipboard in hand. Never a good sign. Is it true the morning shift left 14 rooms untouched? Yes, I said. Calmly. This isn't the first time, he said. We can't keep ignoring it. I'm notifying HR. I swallowed hard. And then I did something I never would have done a few months ago. I spoke up. You don't know what Sandra's going through. But I do. And if you fire her, you'll be losing one of the hardest working people on this staff. He raised an eyebrow. You're defending her? The same coworker you were always reporting before. Yes, I said. Because back then I didn't understand her. But now I do. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Then let out a slow breath. All right. One time only. But if it happens again, it won't, I said firmly. Trust me. That evening, I cleaned 23 rooms. 14 of them weren't mine. I finished just after 9, barely able to feel my feet. But inside, I felt grounded. Like the floor hadn't cracked at all, it had just been tested. And held. The next day, I found a white paper bag on the supply shelf, tied with a ribbon. Inside, a travel mug. And a note. I don't know how to thank you. He's okay. Home again. I told the manager the truth. You covered for me. You're incredible. S. The mug had a sticker on it. Printed in neat letters. You make the mess look magical. I laughed. Really laughed. There alone in the break room, sitting on a crate with tired legs and a full heart. Later that evening, one of the new girls, Jenna, stopped me in the hallway. She'd only been on the team for 2 weeks. How do you do this every day? She asked. All this running, scrubbing, lifting? Don't you ever get tired of it? I smiled. And answered honestly, sure I do. But I'm not doing it alone. Sandra started coming in 10 minutes early after that. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. We did little 5-minute overlap meetings. Talked about what needed fixing. Shared the heavy rooms. It wasn't about towels anymore. It wasn't even about rooms. It was about restoring things. Ourselves included. Sometimes change doesn't come loud. There are no spotlights. No music swells. It just happens quietly. Like when the front desk clerk starts looking you in the eye instead of past you. Or when someone in laundry folds your uniform and actually puts your name on it. Or when the guy from the kitchen who never talks suddenly says, hey, feels calmer up here lately. That's you, isn't it? That kind of change, it sticks. It settles into the walls. A week had passed since the day I cleaned 23 rooms. Sandra was back. She looked tired, yes, but focused. She was grateful in a way I hadn't expected. Careful. Attentive. Still human, but not hiding anymore. We had become a system. Me, evening. Her, morning. And for the first time in months, my shift didn't feel like starting over. It felt like continuing something someone else had done with care. Then something happened. I got called into the office. I walked in expecting the usual. Schedule change, supply budget, another overbooked weekend. But inside were 3 people. The manager, the HR lady, and a man I didn't recognize in a gray suit. My stomach flipped. But their faces weren't grim. They were interested. Neutral but not cold. The manager looked up. Have a seat, Kim. We have a bit of a surprise for you. I sat. Over the last few weeks, we've received several written reviews from guests. Not just good scores, actual written feedback. With your name. I blinked. Me? Really? He handed me a stack of printed papers. Our room sparkled after evening service. We didn't expect that level of care from a 3-star hotel. Thank you, Kim. My elderly mother slipped in the bathroom, and the cleaning lady didn't just help. She brought tea, called for the nurse, and left an extra blanket. Thank you, Kim. Sweet, polite, and you could tell she actually cared. The little touches made the difference. Whoever trained her, give them a raise. I stared at the pages. The words felt surreal. Like they were written about someone else. Then the HR rep spoke up. We'd like to offer you a trial promotion. Evening shift lead. It's not formal yet, no raise, no new badge. But we want to see how you do. I just blinked at them. Me? Me. The girl who used to nearly cry in the mop closet? Now being offered leadership? I nodded slowly. Thank you. I'd like to try. I walked out of that office on legs made of cotton. Sat down in the storage room. And just breathed. Laughed a little. Might have cried a bit too. It wasn't about the title. It wasn't even about the trust. It was the shift, that quiet pivot when you realize they see me. That evening I approached Jenna again. She still looked nervous every time I got near. I'd noticed she sometimes forgot to check the toilet paper or refill soap. Before I would have just fixed it and moved on. Now I couldn't. Now I had to teach. Hey Jenna, I said gently. Got a sec? Sure, let's go through the checklist together. It's not just about ticking boxes, it's about making the guests feel safe. Like someone really thought of them. She nodded. Eyes wide. Quiet but listening. At the end, she said, thanks. People usually just roll their eyes or redo my work. You actually explained it. That's cool. And I realized something. I wasn't leading because I was the best. I was leading because I understood. Later that night, as I was grabbing my coat, I saw another note from Sandra. If you're shift lead now and I'm still just mourning Sandra, I'm okay with that. Because you're not just good at this. You make people better just by being kind. I held the note to my chest. And in that quiet windowless hallway, I said something to myself I hadn't dared to say in months. I'm proud of you. Cleaning is a strange kind of work. You walk into a room and everything looks fine. But you know better. You check behind the curtains, under the bed, inside the cabinet. Because real order doesn't live on the surface. It lives in the corners. In the quiet. In the parts no one notices unless they're missing. It had been 2 weeks since I unofficially became the evening shift lead. There was no ceremony. No new badge. No raise yet. But everything felt different. The supply room had a rhythm now. People smiled when they passed me. Jenna asked me questions without flinching. Even the guy from laundry offered to help load my cart. It wasn't magic. It was respect. And it had taken months to earn. I started keeping a small notebook. Not for checklists. For moments. April 6th, Sandra came in at 6 a.m. Looked like she hadn't slept. I left her coffee. She smiled like I'd handed her gold. April 8th. Guest in 214 left a tip and a note. Thank you for making me feel seen. April 9th. Jenna stayed late to redo a room she said didn't feel finished. I told her I was proud. She turned bright red. That notebook reminded me. This work had weight. Real human weight. One afternoon, I walked into room 316. It used to be one of our trouble rooms. Always messy. Always complaints. Now, it looked like a hotel catalog photo. Pillows perfect. Mirror spotless. Little towel swans resting on the bed. And on the nightstand a note. Handwritten. Neat cursive. Thank you for the peace. We came here to bury my aunt. We didn't expect comfort from a hotel room. But we found it here. Thank you, Kim. M. and E. Manning. I stood there for a moment just holding that note. Letting it sink in. These people didn't know me. Not really. But they felt me. Through the smell of clean sheets. The cup placed just right. The warmth in the way the room had been touched. I wasn't just cleaning anymore. I was caring. Later that day, the newest hire, Crystal, approached me shyly. She was fresh out of training. Still unsure. Still clinging to her checklist like a lifeline. Kim, she asked softly, can I ask you something? Sure. Doesn't it get tiring? Being the one who always cleans up after everyone else. I looked at her for a second. And I saw me just a few months ago. Exhausted. Frustrated. Invisible. I smiled. It used to. She tilted her head. Now, I said. Now I know every room I clean is a chance to make someone's day just a little easier. Even if they never see my face. She didn't say anything right away. But then quietly. Can I start with 204 today? I don't think I did a good job on it yesterday. I smiled wider. Absolutely. When my shift ended, I walked down the quiet hallway. The one that always echoes a little too much. I sat down on the bench by the service elevator, pulled out my notebook, and wrote one more entry. Dear Kim, you thought no one saw you. You were wrong. You thought this job didn't matter. You were wrong. You thought you'd always be alone. You were wrong. You are the kind of person who brings calm where there was chaos. You don't shout. You don't beg for thanks. You just show up. And you leave things better than they were. That's enough. More than enough. I closed the notebook. Exhaled. And for the first time in a long time I didn't feel tired. I felt steady. Like I belonged. In a hotel where hundreds of people come and go every day, you don't always remember faces. But sometimes someone remembers your name because you were the one who brought order, right when they needed it most. And that stays. Long after the towels have been folded, and the floor's been mopped, and the room has been turned over once again, that part of you lingers. Quiet, kind, real.